Welcome to Innovators Impact, the #1 business podcast in the Bahamas and the fastest growing in the Caribbean. This is the show where industry trailblazers and creative minds share their secrets to success. Each episode, we sit down with leading experts from diverse fields to uncover how cutting-edge ideas and powerful communication strategies converge to create remarkable impact. From CEOs to thought leaders and entrepreneurs to media moguls and creatives, our guests reveal the stories behind their successes and the success of their organizations. We also chat about the role content, branding, and communication play in their journeys. So, get ready for this inspiring conversation with actionable insights and a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to lead in today's ever-evolving landscape. I'm your host, Ethan Quant. Our guest today is a voice for the voiceless and a champion for the most vulnerable. She's a wife, mother, daughter, aunt, executive coach, advocate, mentor, and friend. She serves to create a Bahamas for all Bahamians and is deeply involved in community outreach to children. She currently serves as the communications director for a publicly traded company here in the Bahamas and a member of the Interparliamentary Union's working group on science and technology representing Latin America and the Caribbean. We are so pleased to have here on Innovators Impact, Ms. Maxine Seymour. Maxine, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so happy to be here.
I know this has been quite some time in the works, and so I do appreciate you making time out to have a little conversation with us.
I appreciate you inviting me. I feel so honored to be one of the guests on Innovators Impact.
Well, like I said, we do want to have here people who are really leaders of industry, and you are one of the most, I think, public-facing communications professionals that I know, and we appreciate that. So it's a natural fit for you to be here. Now,
Thank you.
I know we have known each other, I think, for the last several years, first in passing, and then we started increasing our communications. But for those who may not know who Maxine Seymour is, I want you to just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So there's not much to tell. What you see is what you get. I live life in octopus mode, always serving, always trying to help others. And I'm really passionate about communication. So from a little girl growing up with a single mom who taught, I read books, and I was always communicating with someone. At times it was my imaginary friend. At times, of course, it might have been my pen pal in another country. At times it might have been relatives on another Bahamian island, but I'm really passionate about communication. And so I just live to share meaning, to really get to know other people, to hear their stories, and where possible or necessary, to help to illuminate and really amplify their stories.
At Lifestyles Digital Media Group, we specialize in creating compelling corporate content that enhances your internal and external communication efforts.
Our highly skilled and passionate team knows how to produce content that will resonate with your audience and significantly boost engagement rates.
Let us help you tell your story, connect with your audience, and achieve your business goals.
The team here at Lifestyles Digital Media Group would love to help you get seen, be heard, and make an impact.
Wondering what a no-claim bonus is? Let's break it down. A no-claim bonus is a discount offered by insurers for not making any claims during the policy year. It rewards safe driving and can significantly reduce your premiums. Talk to NUA about how you can keep racking up those bonuses with safe driving.
Now, I know for a fact that you are very involved in the community, right? And you have several causes that you are passionate about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those, and why is that such an important part of your life?
So for me personally, I am particularly interested in elderly persons, children, persons with disabilities, and just disenfranchised communities in general. And I think it's because for me, I grew up in so many ways not as privileged as others. But yet I had access to certain circles because my mom, as a single mom, made sacrifices. And so I attended private schools, but not because we had extra money to spend, but because she was determined to ensure that I had access to quality education. And so in those circles, I was often around persons who could not necessarily appreciate the hard work it takes to accomplish certain things because they had it a little easier. And so for me, I recognize and connect with others who have to deal with the stresses of ordinary life and living in the Bahamas. I know what it is to take a public bus. I know what it is to have to access public care at the public health care facility. I understand the struggles that people face, and I recall what it was like. And so for me, any way could help to create access for children, for example, who may be in single parent homes or who may be in two parent homes, but there's just not the disposable income to invest in leisurely activities or to be privileged with certain things. I want to make sure that those children be able to have their eyes open wide and see things and do things that other children think are ordinary and take for granted. It's just like the elderly. My mom took care of her parents, and I take care of my mom now. I'm a caregiver. She lives with me full time, and we're all together, and I have to care for her. So I know what it is to have someone be impatient, for example, when they're serving someone because it's taking a little longer for her to count out her money or something like that. And so I'm always on the lookout for people who are not as patient or who try to take advantage of the elderly. Do you understand? And so because of my personal experiences in various spheres, and even connecting with persons with disabilities over many years, because I've spent decades doing philanthropic and community outreach work. So it's not anything new for me. It's who I am. And I understand that these are people with personalities, people with, promise, professionals, and just talented people who just happen to be disabled. And for me, it's important to see them beyond their disability. And so whatever I could do in terms of the community, through my personal outreach efforts, through church, being a Rotarian, and all of the other organizations and causes I'm involved in, I am here to serve. That's what I do.
It brings me immense joy to welcome all of you compliance professionals to this afternoon's joint hybrid Bahamas Association of Compliance Officers and British Virgin Islands Association of Compliance Officers and Professionals. Today, we're delving into a very timely topic, the evolution of fraud.
If your country, if your industry, if you do something very, very well, focus on that and let others focus on what they do very, very well, and then trade amongst you. And that has the net largest impact on GDP growth for everyone.
Very often you find that it is a penalty in terms of time in prison, the sentence that a person is likely to get. Just that it is far easier from a prosecutorial point of view.
And I think a lot of the FCPA legislation is geared towards American companies abroad. And so to the extent, I don't think there's a great dominance of American companies within the Bahamas.
From law enforcement, we apprehend persons on a daily basis in relation to fraud.
Now, I'm interested in learning how, because you said earlier that, you've always had a passion for communication, right? Your mother was a school teacher. And so, the passion of communication was always there. But how did you transition from this is my passion now to this is my profession? Like you're the director of communication for a publicly traded company here. Like, how did you go about making your passion really your career, and then also influencing the organizations that you've been a part to really participate in the community, because that's something else that you're passionate about?
So, how did I go from being too talkative in kindergarten to actually talking for a living, which is interesting because I saw my grade 2 teacher the other day somewhere, and I told her that I'm still talking, but for a good reason. And so, when I would have finished high school, and in high school, I would have been very active in debate and speech and just student advocacy actually on campus from back then. Naturally, I went into journalism and mass communication in terms of studying. And that's where it all started. But after studying journalism and being in the newsroom briefly, under greats like Darrell Miller and Anthony Newbold and others, I realized how committed I was to really like telling other people's stories, to getting the word out, to really inspiring others through sharing information with them. And so then I went on and did my additional studies, and I kept with communications, did my bachelor's in communication and English. And again, I continued working various jobs in various industries, but always in communication. And later on went on to do my graduate studies. But in wanting to communicate, once I got to any company I worked at, you talk about convincing companies to do their part to help others. What I've found over time is that we know that advertising is telling our story, but PR is someone else telling our story. And it's more credible when somebody else says that, oh my goodness, Ethan helped us out so much. Do you know that Ethan, shot the ball in January and he did such a great job and that helped us so much, than when Ethan just says, oh, come to us. We do, videography. We help brands tell their stories. And so I find that it's important to connect and to really use that opportunity to help expose your brand as well. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement.
When you choose Spectrum Surgical Center, you're choosing excellence, innovation, and a commitment to outstanding patient care. Our center is equipped with 2 modern operating rooms, allowing us to provide a range of general surgical procedures with efficiency and precision. From the moment you step through our doors, our dedicated team is here to guide you through the process, ensuring a smooth and stress-free experience. We prioritize patient safety and comfort, using evidence-based techniques to optimize recovery times and surgical outcomes. At Spectrum Surgical, we are not just performing procedures, we are improving lives, one successful surgery at a time. Our office hours are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Contact us at 242-603-1416. Spectrum Surgical, healthcare reimagined.
At Lifestyles Digital Media Group, we believe a strong brand identity is essential for corporate businesses looking to stand out and make a lasting impact. So what exactly is brand identity? It's the unique set of visuals, messaging, and values that shape how a company is perceived by its audience. For corporate brands, a clear identity isn't just about logos or colors. It's about consistently communicating who they are, what they stand for, and the value they bring. A strong brand identity builds trust, attracts ideal clients, and differentiates a business in a competitive market. From visual design to voice and tone, every element should align with the company's mission and resonate with its audience. Here at Lifestyles, we specialize in assisting businesses craft identities that are authentic, powerful, and memorable so they can truly lead in their industries. Thank you for tuning in and follow us for more insights on building a brand that drives success.
And, first of all, of course, I agree with you because you're absolutely right. And so what role, because I've had conversations with companies, established companies, and I understand that everybody or every company's, communication needs aren't the same, right? But at the same time, everybody has a story that they want to tell, right? And depending on the audience. But I'm surprised that even today, we still have companies who are looking at platforms like Instagram, social media, YouTube, as a nice to have as opposed to need to have. I'm very interested in your thoughts on that. Like, what role does social media play in overall organizational communication in today's environment?
It's the only way. Any company who's not on social media is going to be left behind at some point, because that's where everyone is. Even in terms of young people, for example, young people don't hang out anymore at the mall or at the skating rink or meet up with their friends. They literally hang out online, okay? Older people hang out online. There are people who are 70 who are more active on social media than I am, surprisingly so. And so the reality is that if you want to reach your customers, from decades ago when I studied communication, they talked about the importance of various channels. And no, social media wasn't around then, but the point of the matter is that it was our job to determine whether or not radio or television or newspaper or magazine, like what is the best way to reach your audience? Well, nowadays, any sort of digital marketing is your answer. And so it's not a nice to have, it's definitely a need to have. And you can determine which social media platforms you go on, how you use the platforms, what content you tailor for each. But the point of the matter is that you have to get, as a corporate organization, as an organization, you have to get out there on social media. You have to be involved on social media. You have to have a presence, and you have to engage with your customers there as well. Because even in terms of their convenience, in terms of contacting your company, customers are not just going through the old-fashioned drive to you, talk to you, see what's going on, or write a letter and put it in the mail and send it to your company. Nowadays, if they're online, they want to be able to click and send a message to you, or if they go to your page, they want to be able to send a message, have you call them, because that's just the way of the world. It's convenient. People stay on their phones all day, and they want to be able on their phones to do everything. They want to be able to see what's going on in their family and see what's socially happening. They want to see everyone's new baby who got married, who graduated. They want to be able to stop and click and pay their premium for their insurance. They want to transfer money between accounts at the bank. Then they want to go and hurry up check their child's school grades. Yeah. And so they do everything here. And so don't be fooled to think that they're going to stop what they're doing here to go and engage with your brick and mortar business. You have to get them here. And so it's definitely very important to be involved and to have a presence in terms of social media now for all companies who are serious about business.
Welcome to the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, BCCEC. As the leading voice of the business community, our mission is simple: to ensure that businesses across our islands thrive in a competitive global economy.
The BCCEC provides vital support to businesses of all sizes, from small startups to major enterprises. We advocate for policies that promote growth, connect businesses with resources, and help them navigate any challenges.
By joining the BCCEC, you gain access, exclusive opportunities to connect with industry leaders, advice, expert guidance, and training tailored to support your business, and advocacy. We ensure your voice is heard at the highest levels of government.
The BCCEC is a catalyst for economic development in the Bahamas. We give our members, whether large corporations or small businesses, the tools and support to succeed and grow.
For decades, the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation has been a pillar of stability and progress, influencing policies, driving innovation, and fostering an environment where businesses can flourish.
Join the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce today and be a part of a dynamic network that champions your business. With advocacy, resources, and connections, we're here to help you succeed.
That is.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you said that. Now, I know on social media, you have a pretty strong personal brand, right? My question to you is, as somebody who is in corporate Bahamas, right? Why did you feel, or why do you feel the need to, develop and take the time to build your personal brand?
Because who I am extends beyond what I do. And while people may, through my corporate job, they may get to understand a little bit about what I do, they don't really have the opportunity to understand who I am. Because from a corporate perspective, my primary role is to sell the company I work for. And my only focus is to promote that company and to do everything I can in my power to get people to know that company. And so I don't want to just set Maxine aside, though, because I'm someone, too, that I would like people to get to know, and I like to get to know people. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories. I love connecting with them. I love learning from them, because every time you meet someone, there's something completely new. And I'll tell you, just by having a conversation, you can travel the world, you can visit places you never did, because people, as long as you engage them, they tell their story. And then you're like, oh my goodness. And so you feel as if you visited Antarctica just because they took you there and told you about the time they went skiing or whatever. And so I thought it was still important to tell my story. And it's very, for me, I consider myself a voice for the voiceless. And I serve in everything I do to create a Bahamas for all Bahamians. And so for me, whatever I can do to level the playing field in our country, I want to do. And I want people to be able to access me, and I want to be able to access others. And so I just thought it's important to, and I think it's important to tell my story and to make sure that people know who Maxine is. Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked a bit about why it's important for companies and organizations to be active on social media, to produce content that shares their brand story, right? And you shared why you're sharing your personal brand story for all intents and purposes, right? Why would, or what would you tell somebody who is, a professional in corporate Bahamas? Like, why should they pay attention to telling their story through building their personal brand?
Because it's almost like an electronic resume of sorts. So as a professional in the past, it was always important to keep your resume updated, because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity, and then you can share it. But nowadays, persons who may be interested in you, either for other opportunities in terms of employment, or even for speaking engagements, and just to access your expertise beyond the company you work for. They may need you to consult or to do something for them. They're not going to call you to ask you to send your resume. They're just going to Google you. Yeah. They're either going to Google you or look on a particular platform, type your name, and in that moment, they expect to get certain information from you. If you don't put that information out there, that doesn't mean they're not going to get the information, because there's information out there on everyone. But they may find information someone else has out there. And so you want to be the one to lead the narrative, to tell your own story, and to make sure that you have a presence that other people can access for whatever reason, because it could be great opportunities. And so we shouldn't shy away, because many times persons shy away from sharing themselves because they feel as if it's a setup or it's going to backfire. No, it could backfire in a positive way. So it's important to get out there. I'll tell you, every day in this country, people look for somebody to solve some problem. And you may be the solution, but they won't know if you don't tell them. And so there are people among us who have the most fabulous ideas, who have the solutions to all sorts of things we need. And sometimes we outsource because we say, oh, well, I couldn't find anyone here to do it, or I don't know anyone here who does that, or I don't know anyone here who studied that. But there are people here, but if you don't get out there, no one will know. Okay, and so it's important to be out there, and you don't have to, being out there doesn't mean that you have to tell everyone what you had for breakfast or what you plan to have for lunch. You're in control of what you post and what you share. And so if there are parts of your life you prefer to keep private, then do that. But at least something, whether it's information on your field that you could share to help up and coming persons in the field, persons interested in the field, share something of yourself to others. Because we talked earlier about how we can impact the community. Well, social media is one way. Because you may be in a field where just to access an expert to sit down and talk or to bring someone in to consult may cost X amount an hour. But there may be students out there who need to know more about that field. And just by making simple posts, you can help to empower that generation. And so share yourself with the world on some level.
My name is Ethan Kwan. I'm the founder and CCO of Lifestyles Digital Media Group. We are the leading corporate content creators in the Bahamas and the fastest growing in the Caribbean. And we specialize in internal and external content for communication purposes. What sets Lifestyles apart from the rest of the industry is really the experience. We really work with our clients from concept to completion. We assist them at every step of the way. It's the level of professionalism and the fact that we are customer-centric that really sets us apart. I've been coming to the Bahamas Economic Conference as an attendee for several years, and I can say that every year that I've come, it's gotten better and better.
I'm Robert Bantry. I'm the CEO of Simplified Group of Companies. So we are what you call an alternative lender. We provide funding for individuals, businesses, but we provide alternative funding. We chose to sponsor the cocktail reception because we are generally a happy company, a fun company, and the cocktail hour, the happy hour, that's the happy part of the day. And so because it aligns with us, we thought it was fitting that we sponsor the cocktail reception. Next year, you really want to be here for this conference.
Just before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share maybe with our audience before we wrap?
I just want to remind everyone that to communicate is to share meaning. And so you may intend for a message to go a certain way, but if the receiver did not get it in the way you intended it, you did not communicate. You sent a message. And I think that's important in communication because people often think, well, I told you this, so I communicated. Why didn't you? Well, maybe you didn't communicate. And there are so many challenges when it comes to communication and so many barriers. And of course, we can't talk about all of that in a quick wrap up, but it's very important to ensure that you communicate. I use the example, if you go to your grandmother's house and she cooks some soup for you and you say, boy, Grammy, the soup carrying on bad or tastes bad. And she is like offended because you're ungrateful or unappreciative or you are so insulting and impolite. She may not know that when we say, hey, that bad, that means good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if someone's heading out who's a generation apart and you say same thing, you'd be like, oh, that outfit really ate. And they're offended. Like, it's like, what do you mean? So the point of communication is to share meaning.
Yeah.
And so people have to remember that in everything you do. When you intend to communicate, ensure that the recipient received what you sent in the way you intended, because otherwise you didn't communicate.
I love it. And I think I'm going to end on that. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said in my intro, you were in for a very insightful and informative conversation between myself and Maxine, and she did not disappoint. And so I do hope that you found value in some of the information and ideas that we shared here on this episode of Innovators Impact. And until next time, I'm Ethan. See you later.